Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here today. I am excited for this one, and before we get started, just know this is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among other things. Now this is ATM, Atletico De Madrid. It's a token that went crazy bonkers here today. The price has increased significantly, and we're going to take a look at best practice and essentially try to find a good entry point for you if you're planning to take entry in this climate. Now, I always exercise a lot of caution in this situation, of course, because you never truly know. You don't want to get wrecked, but that's the whole point of this, right? I'm not a financial advisor, but I do have years of trading experience, and I can hopefully help educate you again on good ways to navigate this type of scenario. Always do your own research, please. Make sure you do that. And of course, just know I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. There is a link in the description below for my Telegram, Patreon, and of course, $25 in Bitcoin from Voyager, if you'd like to claim that as well. But without further ado, let's go and check it out. Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at ATM. Now, before we do, always take a look first at Bitcoin and Ethereum to kind of see what's going on with the market, to quickly compare and contrast these coins, just to ensure that if Bitcoin's going down and this one is too, we understand that they work simultaneously, or sometimes some coins can work independent of Bitcoin as well, which is likely what we're seeing here today, which is fascinating. So let's take a look at that here first. Let's do Bitcoin as a starting point here. So big surprise, Bitcoin sold off again, all right? Super exciting, yay, all of our altcoins went down. Anyways, I don't love it when this happens, of course. It's Bitcoin, it's doing its thing, but not a big fan of this constant indecision. Just decide to stay over 57,000, we'll be fine. Good news is it did test the support level of 53,300 again, and it rejected, so we're still in good shape there. But as per usual, just kind of stuck in this channel between 57,300 and roughly 57,000, with a major resistance level up at 59,000, or correction, 59,500, right at the halfway point there. Okay. Also note that we have the 50 and 200-day moving average here, roughly close to 57,000. Was supposed to work as a good support, but we lost that today. Obviously, somebody else had an agenda that we weren't aware of. Nonetheless, price does appear to be stabilizing right now. In the last 4 hours, we might potentially have a 4-hour green bar coming up here soon. It's roughly about 54,300. So that's Bitcoin right now. And then Ethereum, looking at the 4-hour chart, effectively a similar scenario for Ethereum as far as the recent sell-off from Bitcoin and how that impacted it. But good news is Ethereum has a tendency of recovering quite quickly, and we will likely see that happen soon, with the momentum being being more bullish instead of just kind of unsure. So the great thing about Ethereum is that when people sell their Bitcoin, they transition over to Ethereum and invest there. So the likelihood of Ethereum doing well and bouncing back faster than Bitcoin is much higher. Okay. So maybe just a note for future reference, if you don't already do that, anytime Bitcoin goes down, feel free to invest in Ethereum or have some USD set aside, or whatever currency you have, and essentially put that into Ethereum when there's a dip again from Bitcoin, because it seems like Bitcoin is just going to keep doing this. 57, 58,000, dump to 54. Back up, dump again. It just keeps doing that. So it might be advantageous to consider when the price gets up to about 58,000 to start trimming some of your positions on your altcoins in preparation for a Bitcoin selling off again. Either way, no certainty in that, but that is apparently what would have been beneficial to do the last 7-8 days in a row, right? Either way, we're here to look at ATM. So this is ATM. Now, this is an interesting one, because I looked at the all-time high. In fact, we can look at that really quick. Why don't we take a quick peek at that? It is Atletico De Madrid. This is a fan token. And just to quickly note before we get into it, there was a previous all-time high of, what is it, right about, come on, let's get that. Okay, well, it was a lot. It was up in the 25-26 range in late December, okay? So just to kind of get perspective there, this still has a ton of potential, because there's, even though it passed its recent all-time high, it hasn't passed its largest all-time high, if that makes sense. So there's still plenty of room for growth. So this bull run that we're seeing right now, could essentially keep going, right? Now we want to look at some entry points and find out if it's even worth entering in. Typically, when I look at a chart like this, and I see a one-day chart that is solid green bar, that is what I mean. That is a pretty high percent. We're looking at a right in the range of about 68% growth, approximately. I mean, that's a lot in one 24-hour period, and that period's not even done yet. So just keep that in mind. Oftentimes that is a concern, but there it goes. It keeps going up. So apparently there's something going on, and we're gonna try to see if we can get to the bottom of it here. That being said, this is the 1 day chart, and we'll go and just look at the 1 day, 4 hour, 15 minute, and then probably down to the 1 minute chart. See if we can find a good entry point for you, and just help you understand best practice along the way. Because again, I've been trading for a very long time, and honestly, when I see things like this, it's usually cause for concern, but in cryptocurrency, it's a different scenario altogether. There's likely some fundamental things that are going on, and if you have insight on that, feel free to comment below, let us know, so we can all learn from that. But strictly technical charts that we're looking at right now, it is on a crazy bull run right now. Which is interesting because it's contradictory to what happened with Bitcoin, right? When I prefaced with the Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin is still selling off, so to speak. I mean, it's consolidating minorly right now, but it had a major sell-off in the last 8 to 12 hours, and this is essentially the opposite. So that is interesting when coins do that. So let's just go ahead and look at the charts here. So for the 1 day chart, I'll turn on the moving averages. Oops, turn them back on, sorry. And as you can tell, not enough data here for Binance because it obviously recently acquired this coin or this token, but at this point with the 50-day moving average, you can see that was working as a support and then a resistance level recently, and it broke through that and just shot way above. So the average price is much higher now than it should have been, and it was roughly at about $10 for the 50-day moving average. Looking down below at the volume, obviously we see super volume, 3.3 million volume so far today, and the previous high in volume was 1.48 million. When it went on one of its previous runs. So obviously significant amount of volume right now. And then of course RSI is overextended. No surprise, it's considered extremely overbought at this point. Commonly when that happens, there is a retracement that occurs after. Now we're going to take a look at the chart and how it's essentially progressing. In other words, if it's continuing to progress upwards with short periods of consolidation in between, then it might be still a safe bet to invest. But if that 1 day chart that we see right there just blasted through there in just a couple of hours, then it wouldn't be safe because there's going to be an automatic retracement that happens after that. I'll explain more about that here in a moment. But that is the 1 day chart. Let's move on to the 4 hour chart. Yeah, wow, no surprise here. Look at that. So first 4 hour bar jumped up about 9%. Second bar jumped up 16%. And the third bar went up a measly 10%. And the very last, current, in the range of about 36%. So as you can see, it's doing this step ladder, and it's just blasting through the ceiling right now, and it's up to 19 now, and right when I started recording this video, it was at 16. So be careful not to FOMO in, okay? Please be careful. The previous all-time high back in December was approximately $26, so remember that. Even though we're not close to that, it does look like it's going to try to perhaps test that in the near future. So just be cautious, be careful. I prefer to sit on the sidelines when something's going like this, and I'd rather buy the dip after confirmation. Again, everyone's different in their trading style. I'm more conservative, so just if you are too, perhaps you want to continue watching. If you are a very risky trader, jump on in, have some fun, let me know how it goes. Okay, please be careful. Hard to find a good entry point in this kind of climate. Now, obviously, looking at the RSI, it's blasting up in the 92. That is huge. That's way too high. So me personally, not comfortable with that. That appears to be very high, and I don't like that. I never take entry on a RSI that's over 70 in most cases, but over 80 especially not. So just keep that in mind. Probably not the best recommendation to take entry. And then of course MACD, look at that, it's shooting to straight vertical. So I think they refer to that as parabolic, just goes straight up. And yeah, it's quite interesting how this is going. It'd be fascinating to see where it stops. It's at 20.3, 20.6, 20.7. My goodness. All right, let's look at the 15-minute chart, see what's going on. Yeah, wow, no kidding. Okay, so that is a significant increase. Okay, so just something to note here. Let's calm down and just take perspective. First of all, if you're a current subscriber, you'll probably know what I'm going to get at here. What do you see on this indication here that looks very concerning and just kind of something that would be cause to pump the brakes? Well, it's the RSI, right? So we look at the RSI. First of all, if you look at the previous RSI, anytime it bumps up over 70, it was followed by a retracement period. Now this doesn't look like much, but that was actually a larger percent than you might think. So this retracement here was a total of about 8%. Now I'm kind of highlighting that because the fact that a retracement of 8% can be quite significant. We're going to see a pretty significant retracement here later, but for right now, just with the RSI coming up over 70, it retraced by 8%, right? That was the first one here. Again, it looks smaller than it is, but it was pretty large at the time. Same thing happens here, right? This very first spike that really pushed the momentum up. RSI bumps up over 70, and it keeps creeping up, and it retraced back down. And let's see what that retracement was. That was a retracement of 21%, okay? So we went from a retracement of 8% to 21%. And again, that's because of how high this RSI was, right? And again, the relative strength index tells us how the overall strength of the current market here, right? Based on the volume. And it really just tells us if it's considered overbought or oversold. Oversold obviously is under 30, overbought's over 70. So this is extremely overbought. In other words, at this time, which wasn't too long ago, the price was considered extremely overbought. Okay, so just remember that. Came back down, calmed down, retraced, stayed under 70. Now, ideally, what we want to see on a good bull run is to see the price peak up over 70, have a slight retracement, and then just continue to slowly increase over time. Right now, with what we're seeing here, the price jumped up so fast. I mean, the last 15 minutes alone, we've seen a 52% increase, and in the last 30 minutes, this time frame isn't even over yet, there was an increase of 76%, right? So the price came up 76% in 30 minutes. That's too much growth, too fast, too quick. It has to come back down, which is probably what we're seeing right here. So if we look at the 1 minute chart, we'll likely see a pretty strong retracement. So again, just be very cautious when you see the RSI coming up over 70. It's a really good indication of telling you if it's considered overbought and if a retracement is imminent. It's going to happen. It always happens. But sometimes during bull runs, they're less severe as others. But again, the harder the price goes up, the harder the price can come down. Okay. So that's kind of that. And to identify a bull run, if it's a bull run or if it's just a price spike, we'll see here soon how the price continues. Because if it consolidates and then continues upwards again, then it's likely going to be in a consistent bull run. But you have to have periods of consolidation in order for a bull run to be successful. Okay. So again, that's a 15-minute chart. Be cautious. Be careful. Don't recommend taking entry even still at this point. Again, I know that the price could likely continue back up and break the previous all-time high of approximately $26, and you'll probably be mad at me for not taking entry if that's the case. But I'm more conservative. I'd rather miss out on all this fun and catch the dip and buy the dip once we have confirmation later, right? I can give you some examples of what that might look like. It is super challenging to identify that right now. We don't really have any major support and resistance levels. In fact, we do technically have a support that was a previous resistance. Obviously, you saw the price get rejected really hard here at 1452. So we'll mark that guy. I hope the price doesn't come back down that hard, but eventually you could anticipate if the price consolidates and retraces back down, this would likely be the next saving grace, the support line at about 1460. So I'd prefer to see the price sell off, come back down, test that line, and then once there's confirmation that it's holding as a support, that's the point in time when I'd like to take entry. That's just me personally. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. Let's look at the 1 minute chart and see how crazy this went. Jeez, even still on the 1 minute chart, it's such a large increase. That is crazy. So the way to kind of approach this, because obviously you don't really see much in the way of support lines. Obviously we have a resistance level here at approximately 2442. We'll mark that. But the best way to find entry on a 1 minute chart, well, is a couple things. First of all, we want to turn on the EMA line. And I use the EMA 15. You'll see defaults of EMA 9 or EMA 20. Those are still okay, but I'd rather split the difference. I use the 15 personally. It works a lot better with less noise. And what we'll do just before we use the Fibonacci retracement tool is I'll show you what I mean by finding a good entry point here. So first of all, the EMA line, the price being over EMA, don't take entry until you see the price bounce off of this EMA line. So a good day trader will wait for confirmation, and confirmation is waiting for the price to bounce off of this EMA line and or the volume weighted average price, which is this blue line. I prefer the VWAP line because it's a stronger support and resistance level, because it takes the 24-hour volume of what's occurred in the last 24 hours and uses that as an average price. So that's what essentially tells you what the price should be at based on the volume in the last 24 hours. So literally the price should only be at about $16, and instead it went all the way up to 24, and it's coming back down to right in the range of 19-ish. So you can see right here, it is testing the EMA line. So if it tests and holds for just say 2 or 3 minutes, and we see like 3 solid green bars closing above the EMA line, then that would be a case in point where we want to consider taking entry, but just be very, very careful with your entry point because it could flip on you quickly. So the important thing here is to make sure that you only wait for confirmation that the EMA line is tested, and you don't just jump in right here, right now, because this is an official confirmation. To me, confirmation takes no less than 3 minutes. So we want to see 3 solid green bars closing above the EMA line in order to take entry. And let me give you an example of what that would have looked like before this price jumped up, right? So for example, this is what three solid 1 minute bars looks like that are closing in all green, right? So if you can see that, that's what it looks like for confirmation above the EMA line, okay? Now we didn't have hardly any confirmation leading into it. You want to make sure all 3 bars are closing in green above the EMA line, and obviously above VWAP. If you have that confirmation, then the price will likely continue upwards, and what happens, it came up, came back down, it tested the EMA line, and rejected and continued. Look at that, we got 3 more solid green bars. That'd be a case in point where you just continue to ride it out, okay? So that's kind of just an example I like to show you with the EMA line. It really is super helpful when you're going down to the 1 minute chart. It's not as beneficial in larger time frames, but on the 1 minute chart, it's especially helpful. And then of course, just say for example, we lose the EMA line here, we lose EMA, and the price comes down. The second best support level would be your VWAP line, which is the volume weighted average price. That'll be continuing upwards with the price. So eventually those two will intersect. But as you can see right here, had you taken entry right there, the price is kind of coming down essentially. Okay. Sorry, one sec, got another call. No. All right. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. So that being said, you want to be careful, wait for confirmation. This is not confirmation. In fact, it looks like it's losing the EMA. It might recover, but if it doesn't, then you would want to use the VWAP as a secondary, okay? So just keep that in mind. Nonetheless, we have these support levels here. Good news is the price is above 3 potential support lines. EMA first, VWAP second, and the support level at about 1452. So if you're going to plan to take entry in this climate right now, wait for further confirmation, wait for this EMA line to continue to test and stay above. We want to see it to stay above at least 3 green bars, and then possibly consider taking entry, and be mindful of the fact that this new resistance level of $24.40 will potentially be tested and rejected or break above. And then you follow suit as well. If you're on the 1 minute chart, you wait for 3 more 1 minute green bars above that support level, or the previous resistance created as a support, and then kind of add your position and it continues up. I don't foresee it going up that high personally because it ramped up so fast, so quick in the last 30 to 60 minutes that I'd be surprised if we reached that previous all-time high of roughly $26 today. It might happen soon if this bull run continues, but just be mindful of your entry. Again, I know I've repeated this multiple times, but wait for confirmation. Don't get in until you have it. Okay. Again, confirmation should look like this. We've got 3 solid green bars closing above the EMA and VWAP lines. Again, this is the 1 minute chart, and those are 3 1 minute green bars. The other confirmation I like to look for is on the 15 minute chart, and they need to be 2 solid green bars on the 15 minute chart. Okay. Now that can be harder to identify and harder to find, so it's not always perfect, especially in a climate like this when the price is jumping up so quickly. You're going to possibly miss out on some price action. So in other words, if you look back here, this would be an example of 2 solid green bars. That's a terrible line. Let's see if I can get that better here. See these two guys here? That is two solid 15-minute green bars closing above EMA and the VWAP. That'd be a case in point where you probably want to consider taking entry at approximately this time, even though it went up and got rejected and came back down, but it got rejected because the price was too high at that time, and of course the RSI was too high as well. So again, be very cautious about taking entry on the 15-minute chart if the RSI is over 70. That's like another indicator I use. So I commonly use the VWAP and the RSI in tandem, and then of course use my support and resistance levels as well. So I hope you did find this beneficial, and if you do, comment below, let me know. Let us know too, of course, if you have any fundamentals here on obviously what's going on, because it's moving for some reason the way that it is, because Bitcoin is very stagnant right now. It's calming itself down, so to speak. But right now, this is just still ramping up good. So just remember, all-time high is roughly $26, and the current resistance level right now is $24.40. And we'll see what happens. Oh, there we go. Just to clarify, this is the confirmation I normally look for. Right there. As you can tell, it bounced off the EMA line, proving the fact that the momentum is bullish and it's coming back up again. It may come up to test this resistance level, it may fizzle out, but ideally, again, you always want to wait for it to confirm and bounce off the EMA line to know that it's still in the momentous trend. Okay. All right, so I'll have training videos on this too. By the way, I'm actually planning to, with the next couple weeks, I'm going to have, RSI, moving averages, MACD, VWAP. I'm going to have separate videos for all those so you understand more specifically how to use them, because they are conditional. You can't use the VWAP on a 4-hour chart, same as you can't use the EMA on a 1-day chart. There's just certain things that are more beneficial than others, so just be mindful of that. But I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Good luck out there and be safe.